Hi, I'm Parker.
And I'm Tim.
And this is the Rage Podcast, where today we're going to talk about the sixth day of creation. So, we're going to start off right by reading where we can find the sixth day of creation, which is right at the beginning of Genesis. And before that, we have the rest of everything being created, and the animals were created right before. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now...
Okay. Yeah, so the whole world is put together, and God is ready for the grand finale, which is what we're about to read.
Then God said, "Let us make man in our own image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the seas, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the ground, and over every creeping thing that creeps on earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female, he created them.
Created in the image of God, and of everything that had been created in creation, meaning light and darkness, and water, and day and night, and land and sea,
land, plants.
Yep. Nothing, none of that, none of the animals, none of any of that was created in God's image. However, there was one piece of the earth that was. And that was us. It was you and us. And that's what we're talking about today. What does that mean? What does it mean to be created in God's image?
Well, I feel like being created in God's image can be taken in a lot of different ways and can be abused, that statement. But I would say, in my eyes, I have the possibility of, I think it goes to the example that Christ was on earth. Christ was the perfect example of human life.
Okay.
He was, I don't know if I can say created in the image of God and fulfilled that. Mm-hmm. He was God, but he was also fulfilling everything we're supposed to be doing as well.
Mm-hmm. He was the ultimate example. He's referred to, especially in the Gospel of Matthew, he's kind of the idea he's the second Adam. He's the Adam that got it right.
Yes.
Where the first Adam was like, "Wow, this apple looks awfully tasty."
Yeah.
The second Adam was, said, "No, I'm not turning the rocks to bread," and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. So that's what I feel like. Being created in the image of God means we have the chance and the opportunity to go and become like that.
Yeah.
We're not like the sheep and all the other animals and everything that are just there. Mm-hmm. We have kind of like a goal. We have a mission, being created in the image of God.
Yeah, and we have a purpose, because one of the things that becomes an issue, if you take this little section, and it's not a very long section, Parker read it for you, just a couple verses, is if you take that out of your idea of God and your idea of how you identify yourself, if that part gets removed, or you don't take it seriously, or you don't see yourself as being special, suddenly it doesn't matter what else you do. Everything else is irrelevant, If you want to engage in any kind of self-destructive behavior you want to engage in, it doesn't matter, because there's really nothing greater for you to be. However, if you say, all right, I am created in God's image, now not only do I want to take care of myself and do the good that being created in God's image can provide, I also now have a responsibility to care for the creation, because that's one of the things that's said in there. Yeah. Is to tend what's going on, and we're also told later to be fruitful and multiply and all that kind of stuff. None of that's going to happen if you don't take care of yourself and don't take care of the world around you. So there's a responsibility that comes with it.
So it's not necessarily focusing on how humans were made. I guess it's not so much the physical in which that we all get into. Right. It's the matter of how we have characteristics of the likeness of God.
Yeah, think about what God does. I mean, we're coming up on Easter here. Spoiler alert: the tomb is empty when they get out there. So we're coming up on that. I mean, what greater example of caring for the earth could there ever be than the resurrection of Jesus Christ? I mean, we're talking about new heaven and new earth. A place with no death, sorrow, crying, and pain, as we read about in Revelation. All of that was provided for through what we read in the closing chapters of all four Gospels. And I think that's a great example for us to look for, is to say, because Jesus is God, and so obviously was created in his image, came to care for the earth, his followers, which is us, called to do the same thing. Be responsible for yourself, be responsible for what's around you, and accept part of your limitations and part of your blessings of being created in God's image. I mean, there is a blessing to knowing right and wrong. I
guess what I would like to add on to that is understand why you are here. It is,
sure.
You mentioned, I feel like a great emphasis on this episode should kind of go towards why we to accept the challenge.
Right.
God kind of starts this whole, as I read, starts by saying you are to have dominion over the rest of creation. You are to be taking care of it and yourself. And I feel like a lot of people don't really follow into that.
Right. And you got to realize this calling came, I have no idea how long ago the Adam and Eve story took place and how long creation, how long ago was Genesis chapter 1? Was it 6,000 years ago or 65 million years ago? I have absolutely no idea. To me, that's irrelevant. Whenever it happened, one of the features of that was that we were created in God's image. We were put together in just such a way that we have this great responsibility. And it's a great privilege, too, to be able
a privilege.
To be God's representatives out in the world. That's what we were created to do, to care for creation and to care for ourselves and care for each other. And if we were to accept that, accept that role and accept what it means to be created in God's image, again, not like God, but in the image of God, meaning God's so loved the world, as we learn in John 3:16, that's what we're called to do as well. So it's a great thing, and it gives life a lot of purpose.
It's it's a lot of like the attitude, the way God handled a lot of situations is kind of how, I mean, again, we're not going to be in the kind of situations God's in, but He handled those in ways that we should also apply to our life. Right. And that's what it is to be made in the image of God. Right,
and the decision-making process and how all that goes on. It's just about recognizing the value that we have, but also recognizing the value I can decline if I choose not to do anything with it. Yeah. If I choose not to live as if I have any value at all, or I don't care that I have this responsibility, or I don't care that I have this blessing to be created in the image of God and live like it, I could turn it down. I certainly wouldn't recommend that, but plenty of people do. I mean, we've seen examples all over the place, and I don't feel like getting into any of them right now because they're depressing, but you turn on your TV and you see plenty of examples of people doing things that does not speak God to the world, does not represent God to the world, because they're doing horrible things in all different kinds of ways. And I feel like that is a rejection of being created in the image of God, because you're not living it out.
You either are rejecting it or you're misinterpreting it.
Yeah.
This passage, I feel like, gets a lot of misinterpretation, saying,
right,
it's that it gives you a reason to, disobey some of God's commands.
Correct.
Because, God created me this way.
I can make my own decision.
You do something wrong and you get called out for it, and then you say next, God made me this way. Mm-hmm. And then, but that's not what this passage is here for. It's not our excuse.
And it's supposed to be a good thing. We're not trying to. Neither one of us trying to make this sound like it's some kind of oppressive thing that happened to us. No, it's a great thing to be able to be responsible, because we can reason and we can think and we can read and we can learn in a way that no other organism on the planet can do. You can teach your puppy how to sit on command and things, but we can do things like build iPhones.
We have, look at every other creature. Like, the creatures that don't have this purpose are the ones that are still, living. I'm in a church building. I live in a home.
Right.
I have a smartphone, and we're filming this on a camera.
Right.
We all made these with, human hands, the hands that have the purpose.
Yes, because we've been specially endowed by our Creator to do these kind of amazing things. And I feel like to deny that divine spark in us is just to say, hey, we're just lucky globs of genetic goo. And I don't buy that. Sorry, I don't buy that. We're not an accident. We aren't just lucky. We didn't just happen. We are on purpose for a purpose. And I feel like to deny the whole image of God, I feel like that, being created in the image of God, I feel like that is just saying, gosh, we sure were lucky to end up like we are. I'm sorry, I can't buy that.
No.
So, well, in order to go on to a discussion, though, about the difference that it makes to be created in the image of God and how important that purpose is, we're going to take just a second and go next level with Parker.
Having been made in the image of God is what separates us humans from being different from any other animal. It gives us the purpose and fulfillment in life. And that's the message of the Rage Podcast today.
Well, thanks for that, Parker. And what we want to close with here today is what a difference that purpose makes in our life. Why are we so different? Because alligators and polar bears and microscopic organisms, they may have a purpose, but it's not the high calling that we people have. So maybe we want to take a minute and talk about what happens once that purpose is withdrawn or denied, I should say, not withdrawn. Once it's denied, what does life become then? How valuable is life without that purpose?
I feel like this is the whole question that humans face a lot: is what value? Because we all get a question: is what am I here for? What is going on? And that way of thinking, I mean, comparing to like if we were to compare ourselves to animals, I don't think animals have the question pop in their head saying, "What am I here for?"
Yeah.
So obviously we have been called to do something on earth. We have been called to, I mentioned in my sermon a couple weeks ago, we are called to be the hands and feet of God, and that's truly what being made in the image of God is really all about. If you're asking me.
Right. And as much as you love your dog has no concept of that.
Your dog has no reason.
I love dogs. Okay, don't get me wrong, but yeah, your dog has no concept of that.
The animals aren't questioning whether they have the purpose, is what I'm saying. So if you just walk away and you don't accept that you are made in the image of God, and you don't understand the whole meaning of that, well then you'll have those situations where you're just sitting there struggling because God's given us this great gift. We were made in the image of God to do the will of God.
And without embracing that image, and without embracing what that means, I'll tell you exactly what it is. Because everybody's got a God. Even dogs have gods. Cats have gods. I'll tell you what it is, though. It's their belly. I mean, you ever have a cat and you run the can opener and the cat comes flying into the room thinking you're opening tuna or whatever? That's what it becomes. Where we get excited about seeing young people succeed, or somebody getting healed, or somebody's situation getting better, or somebody is in a bad situation and we help get them out, or we give to a cause we really believe in. We feel good about that. But if we don't have that image of God where we think it's great to make God's creation a better place, then our belly becomes our God, whatever our appetite is. And that appetite can be lots of things, more than just Twinkies. And if we allow it to become that, we'll get excited over appetites rather than being excited about God. And that's a very, very tiny, tiny life. That's horizons that are really close together. Because if all I ever do is get excited about, what I'm going to have for supper tonight, which, I mean, I'm not going to lie, occasionally do get excited about what I have for supper, but if that's all my life is, then who cares? I might as well eat something I don't like because it's irrelevant. And so that what being created in the image of God and internalizing that, it makes our life so much bigger than, what's the next great thing I'm going to be excited about? What's the next sporting event, or the next trip, or the next vacation, or the next meal, or the next trip to the ice cream store, or whatever. Life has to be more than that, and without being created in the image of God, without accepting that, that's all it is, whatever the next exciting thing is. And if you can't find something to be excited about, then life is nothing.
Yeah.
And you'll find a lot of people who have gotten to that point, especially during the pandemic when so many of the fun stuff and things
that's where you run into your problems. Like Tim was talking about your appetite of going out and doing these things and going to this and going to that. Well, what were you doing when COVID hit? Because all that was taken away.
Right. Yeah, and you got to find your purpose in something else, because if your purpose is whatever the next thrill is, what happens when that thrill ain't there? Or what happens if what you enjoy is gone? I enjoy driving a car that one deer jumps out in front of you and the car's gone, and that's your biggest thrill in life.
Well, you just lost it.
Yeah, it's gone. And your whole purpose in life is gone. Where being created in the image of God, no matter what happens to you, you can still embrace that as your guiding principle. Gives life a deeper meaning that can't be taken away. At least, it can't be taken away at all. Especially not like an appetite can go in a moment. Yeah. So, any more you want to say about that, Parker?
Understand that the image of God applies to all.
Yes.
So
no person is excluded. And this isn't about just a little addendum here. This isn't about whether or not you go to heaven or whatever. Because I'm going to tell you, I personally believe that animals do go to heaven. It's not about that. What I'm saying is in the scheme of living in this world, embracing the fact that you were created specially on purpose for a purpose is much greater than trying to live for whatever the next great thrill is. So. All right.
So carry that throughout the rest of your life, and I bet you'll have a pretty good one. So
it'll start looking better all the time. All right, everybody, go outside right now and enjoy some beautiful weather.
Yes.